Rice Fame Group supports the legacies of HBCUs. This is Lacy L. Rice Jr. of Rice Fame Group, welcoming you to Chat with HBCU Champions, Season 3, Episode 4, with head coach Chris Wright from Langston University's men's basketball team. His team won the Sooner Athletic Conference Championship this year and was national runner-up. Congratulations, Coach, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. Appreciate you having me today.
Oh, most definitely. We're glad to have you, especially since you're I believe our westernmost HBCU.
Hey, yeah, no doubt.
Well, Coach, please tell us about yourself, including your coaching experience and your playing experience.
So I grew up in the great state of Texas. I'm a Texan. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and had a chance to play college basketball at some, a few NAIAs, a lot of Division III schools, but kind of knew I wanted to coach since I was about 14. And growing up in Texas, was a huge Longhorn fan, so I ended up going to the University of Texas and started volunteering coaching when I was like 18. Started at the college level when I was 21 years old. So I think this just finished up year 21 for me in college basketball.
Wow. I did not know that they would allow 18-year-olds to volunteer on the collegiate level.
So I was at the high school level for 2 years, but again, I knew I wanted to coach in college, and so I just went around trying to work a lot of camps, and I met a guy that knew Mike Jones, the head coach at St. Edward's University, and so I'm very thankful to Coach Jones for giving me my start in college coaching.
Okay. So how many years has it been as a head coach?
So I've spent 11 years now as a head coach.
All right. And have they all been at Langston, or have they been at other locations?
So we just finished up year 2, obviously at Langston. Before that, I spent 4 years at Talladega College in Alabama. And so, so I guess, so we played in the national championship in 2 of the last 3 seasons. We're the first HBCUs to make a national championship at the NAIA level since 1987. So, yeah, really proud of what we've been able to do at both those stops.
Okay. Well, that's great. Especially, that I guess what most people probably do not realize is that the NAIA has been really good to HBCUs over the decades. Especially with one of the highlights from, I think it was last week or week before last, was the Tennessee A&I men's championship team visiting Vice President Harris. And so, we've had quite a few HBCUs who have done well in the NAIA. We've had a few who've done well in the NCAA too, but I think overall the NAIA has probably been better for HBCUs.
Yeah, I think the NAIA takes a lot of pride in, just historically, I guess kind of being ahead of their time in not only dealing with HBCUs, right, but just African Americans in college athletics. And so, I've spent a lot of my career in the NAIA, and I think it's a good organization.
Right. Okay. All right. So, was this season the most successful season for Langston, or has it had more success in the past?
So Langston actually has a really tradition-rich history in men's basketball. They were one of the early members of the SWAC. Zip Gels is a Hall of Fame coach here. And then, when you look at like Marcus Haynes played at Langston, they had an incredible run together. but yeah, this is the first national championship that Langston had ever played in.
Okay. All right. Well, and since you brought it up, another fact that most people probably do not realize is that at one time the NAIA was where the HBCUs played. They either played solely in the NAIA or they had dual membership. So it wouldn't have been inconceivable for the SWAC to actually be NAIA conference at one time or even dual membership.
Right, right. Yeah, and so it's a lot of history there. As there is with any HBCUs, and I think that's one of the things that makes it really, really special to right to coach at a place such as Langston.
Okay. All right. Well, coach, tell us a bit about your team. Who were some of your key players and what were some of the major accomplishments?
So we finished the season 35-2. So we won the Sooner Athletic Conference, which is typically one of the best conferences in the NAIA and men's basketball for the second consecutive year. Right, it was the first time Langston had ever won the Sooner Athletic Conference, and then also won the Sooner Athletic Conference tournament for back-to-back seasons. And so, we're extremely proud of those accomplishments. Have a lot of seniors this year. So, we know we have a lot of guys to replace. But, we were led by a couple of All-Americans. Anthony Roy, who was a first-team All-American, was the Sooner Athletic Conference Player of the Year. Ant was a transfer from New Mexico State, where he was about 11 points a game there. And then Taru Dean, our starting point guard, was back for his second consecutive year, and he was a third-team All-American, first-team All-SAC player. Just a great floor general, great leader with a ton of intangibles. And then Cortez Mosley, it was his second year with us as well, back-to-back defensive player of the year in our league, second-team All-Conference. And so, when you have three guys of that caliber, you're going to win a lot of games.
Right. Okay. All right. So you lost two games this year. I'm assuming one of them is that national championship game. Did you lose any conference games? Or
We lost one. We lost at Southwestern Assemblies of God,
mm-hmm.
a place to play. Obviously, they're a really, really good program, and so we kind of needed that loss. I think we were 21-0 at the time, and probably
Mm-hmm.
feeling a little too good about ourselves. And so, it's winning in this league, especially on the road, is a grind. And so, give them a lot of credit. They gave us our first loss, and then we were able to get refocused and obviously make a run all the way back to the national title game.
Okay. Well, since you brought it up, tell us a bit more about your conference. You did have that one loss in the conference, and you did mention it being a grind, but how difficult is it to try to stay focused all season with that goal in mind that you want to win that championship from that conference?
We tell our guys all the time, right? Like, handling success is very, very difficult. I think that's hard for grown adults to do, much less young men, right? And so, so I think, and with us starting off in the top 5 in the preseason this year, we really felt like we had targets on our back all season. And so we got everyone's best shot night in and night out. And then when you look at the success that so many programs in our league have had, Oklahoma City, was the premier men's basketball program for so many years in the NAIA.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Gamblin and Mac Hughes won a national championship. Brendan Shingleton at Texas Wesleyan has won a couple of national championships. We talked about SAGU and their program. Chris Francis at USAO has had a lot of national success. And then, my former assistant coach and one of my best friends, Clint Gallion, he's at Wayland Baptist. Those guys have won a lot of games over the years, and he's done a heck of a job as a young head coach. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I could go on and on about, how good our league is for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, you mentioned some names there. You know, Oklahoma Cities and the Wayland Baptist, and some of the others. And I had no idea it was stacked like that.
Yeah, and then we played 22 of our 28 regular season games or conference games, and so
Hmm.
a lot of league games over the course of a year. So yeah, so I definitely felt like that tested us throughout the season and had us ready to go. Once we got to Kansas City.
Hmm. So being able to dominate your conference, and the teams that it has, is that what keeps you in the high up in the national rankings? Or um I mean, how many of the other teams were nationally ranked?
So I want to say that we had at some point, various times throughout the season, we had 5 or 6 teams that either received votes or were in the top 25.
Hmm.
So yeah, during our 2 years here, if you count the conference tournaments, I think we're 49-3 against Sooner Athletic Conference teams. And so, if you had told me that 2 years ago when I got the job, I probably wouldn't have believed you. And so, yeah, I think that says a lot about the caliber of players that we have, along with the type of assistant coaches that we have here.
Wow. Okay. That's great. That is terrific. Um, well, Coach, um, let's talk a bit about um, your postseason, because the NAIA changed how it did the tournament. At one point, not too long ago, all the teams played in Kansas City. It was one location, but now is multiple locations, like I guess, for lack of a better word, like a play-in to get to the national championship. So can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so used to be until 4 years ago, in men's basketball in the NAI, there was two divisions, Division One and Division Two. Well, those two divisions combined, and so now I believe there's 228 teams, I think, that play men's basketball in the NAI, and so the national tournament went from 32 teams to 64. And so, as a result, the format changed a little bit. And so now there are 16 sites that get to host the opening rounds of the NAI tournament. And so, fortunately for us, we had a great regular season and we're able to bid on hosting and we're able to get that, which for us is it's a huge advantage. I mean, we're 33-0 since we came to Langston at home. So, if you're going to beat us here, you got to play really, really well. And so, yeah, so it was great to win 2 home games and then get the opportunity to go back to Kansas City.
Mhm. Okay, so 16 sites. So is the top 16, are those the teams that hold or that host the sites, or do they sometimes also include random sites?
Yeah, so there are a couple of sites that are completely neutral, that
Hmm.
kind of had contracts with NAIA, and then yeah, your national ranking, basically along with a lot of other factors, strength of schedule, RPI, geographically, they try to spread it out a little bit across the country, and so yeah, so it's most of the top seeds, I would say, get to host as long as your facilities are, meet the criteria to do so.
Okay. Okay. So it's kind of, I guess, like a mix of what they used to do back in the day when they had the what was it, the districts.
Right, right.
So with the districts, you actually had to win your district in order to move on till you got to that national championship, which all the top teams were there in Kansas City.
And so, the nice thing is, I mean, I think our level of play obviously is very comparable to NCAA Division Two.
Mhm.
Especially the top part of the NAI. But yeah, like so, in Division Two though, like it's not a true national tournament. Like it's
Mhm.
based solely off regions. And in the NAI, it really is a true national tournament. And so, you're not just facing teams you know, from your region. in the early rounds. Like so
Mhm.
for us, we played uh, Bellevue from Nebraska in the first round, and in the second round we played Ave Maria from Florida. And so you can literally, play teams from anywhere. And so I think it's a cool format. I think it makes it a true national tournament. I think the NAIA does a really, really good job with with that.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to several coaches from various programs, and what you said definitely rang true. It kind of baffled me because I know, one of the teams who I talked to was from Kentucky, and this was last year, and they had to go to California to play the opening rounds, and then another program from Mississippi had to come to Kentucky to play. So
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. You definitely get that true national tournament feel, which I think makes it special.
right.
As a head coach that's been a part of the old format where 32 teams did get to Kansas City. I think as
Mm-hmm,
coaches we would all like 32 teams to go,
mm-hmm,
but definitely understand the challenges logistically of that.
mm-hmm. So how many teams go now? Is it just the final four, or how do they do that?
So it is the winner from each of the 16 sites. So
Okay.
so it's the Sweet 16 all the way through, um, right? The national championship.
Okay. So NAIA really went old school.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good model.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. And excuse me. Have your peers been as receptive to it as you have? Has there been any grumblings, or pretty much everyone accepted?
No, I mean I think as coaches we definitely like it again when you compare it to the alternative of Division 2. But again,
Mm-hmm,
I think there is a push amongst coaches. We would like 32 teams back
mm-hmm,
in the final site just because of the experience that it provides for your student athletes.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, it's a good format. And so yeah, I think as coaches, again, we're thankful that we get a true national tournament.
Okay. All right. So, Coach, tell us about any honors that you won this year.
You know, and shoot, we talk about this as a team. I'm not a big fan of individual awards just because, um, particularly as a coach, man, if you don't have really good players and really good assistant coaches, you're not winning the game, much less any sort of award. And so,
Mm-hmm,
anything that I was recognized for obviously was a complete team effort. That even our administration here at Langston deserves a great deal of credit for. And so, yeah, I don't want to brag on that stuff too much because again, I know that there's a lot of people that go into making it possible for us to have success.
okay. All right. Well, we're gonna change directions very quickly. You mentioned earlier that you had quite a few seniors on your team that you have to
Yeah.
replace. So, what do you look for in prospects, and can you tell us about any of your current signees?
Yeah. So for us, um, we want guys obviously that are Division 1 basketball players. And I tell people all the time, while we're in NAIA, like if we're
Mm-hmm,
going to have a chance to win a national title, we probably have to be good enough to beat about, a third of the Division 1s out there. And
mm-hmm,
so, if guys can't play at the low major Division 1 level, like we really don't want them here, right? And so that we work really hard to get talented players, but more than that, we want guys that can be a part of something bigger than themselves. Um, guys that really want to grow. And so we definitely don't expect to get perfect people or got we give second chances to guys sometimes. And for me, it comes down to their heart and
mm-hmm,
do they really want to grow. Also, we don't want to bring anyone here that won't graduate. And so
mm-hmm,
for us, after this spring, we'll be a perfect 12 for 12 in graduating our seniors. And so that's something that really means a lot to me. Um, I think it's something that, we take great pride in, because you see across the country so many coaches kind of use guys to help them win games, and they don't help them get their degrees. And um, so that's something that we take, a great deal of pride in. Um, and then obviously as a basketball player, besides being talented, coachable, just guys that would be good fit for our institution, right? I
Mhm.
think Langston's a special place, and we want to do our part in enhancing, right, the overall campus experience for everyone.
Wow, I really admire that. I love hearing that. Because and I tell, especially as a former coach, I tell athletes this all the time. You are a student first. You come here to graduate. You don't come here to participate in sports first. Yeah, that helped you get here, but your first obligation is to the classroom, because for at least for me, if you can't perform in the classroom, you can't perform on the playing field. Period.
Yeah, I mean, we've stolen Nick Saban's saying about how you do anything is how you do everything. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, the same standards that we try to hold our guys to on the floor, we try to hold them to that off the court in the classroom as well. And I think it's amazing how academic success and athletic success oftentimes go hand in hand.
Okay. So, well, let me ask you this. So, have any of your basketball players, uh, and not only there at Langston but elsewhere, have they been able to win that what was it, Champions of Character award?
Yeah, so we've had quite a few guys, kind of get recognized for what they've done, right, just outside of basketball, throughout our
Hmm.
year. So, that's something that's cool. In my time in college basketball, I've been also blessed to coach 54 guys that have played professionally, either overseas or in NBA's G League. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's really neat, to see the success that so many of our guys have had, after college.
Okay. Okay. And one reason I brought that Champions of Character, I when I was with the NAIA, of course, before I got there, I never heard of it. But
Uh-huh.
then once I got there and learned about it, to me, that was just as prestigious as being a conference MVP, because at least in the conference where I was, one person per sport won the big trophy. And it was nice. It was nicer than the MVP trophy. but but yeah, it was prestigious, and it spoke to the athlete's character more so than their athletic ability. And I thought that was special because um I hadn't heard about that in the NCAA or any of the other governing bodies. So I always thought that was special with the NAIA.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think just their whole Champions of Character program is great. I think it's teaching young people, right, about a lot more than just, right, winning games. And so, um,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, we definitely use a lot of the tools that the NAI provides to, right, kind of enhance their experience while they're here with us.
Right. And I mentioned the conference, but you can actually athlete can actually win the national champion of character award. Is that correct?
So now the way it's kind of structured, it's basically, kind of, you can have one winner per team. Um,
Okay.
and so yeah, but again, those guys are recognized in the national tournament before every game, and it's a prestigious honor for sure.
Okay. All right. Um, well, Coach, let's talk about Langston. Um, what are some of the major programs there, and what majors do your athletes tend to take?
So we are, the only HBCU in the state of Oklahoma,
Mhm.
which is pretty cool. It's a great school. We have over 2,000 students, 3 different campuses. In Langston campuses besides us, throughout the state. So that's something that a lot of people don't know. We have over 41 majors here on campus, and so we have a very, I think, diverse selection amongst our guys as to what their majors are, and so we love the school. We love, again, I think it's ran very, very well. The president that hired me, Dr. Kent Smith, he retired after last year. Okay. And our interim president, Dr. Ruth Jackson, was just officially appointed permanent president. And so we're happy for her. She is a great leader and will do great things here at Langston, just as Dr. Smith did. And so as a basketball coach, I could not be more thankful to have those two as my presidents here. You just won't find more supportive people. You won't find better people. You won't find leaders that, have a heart for their student athletes the way that both of those presidents do. And so it's special to be a part of.
Okay. Well, actually, you answered one of my other questions. Since you did, I will ask the back end of that particular question. How much support do you also receive from like your athletic administration, as well as from the fans and community? Well, from the students and the community.
Oh, our support here is off the charts. I work for a great athletic director, Danita Drain Rogers. So she was the women's basketball coach here at Langston for quite a while, had success, and then moved on to Grambling. And then when she was done there, she came back and started as the AD here. And so it's really cool to be able to have a former basketball coach as your boss, right? So man, she has really helped me grow a lot. And so I'm extremely thankful for her. We have a very, very passionate fan base and alumni base. We play quite a few schools in Oklahoma City. And, when we go into the city, we as a visiting team, we'll take over other teams' gyms at time. And so that's pretty cool. Even when you look at, we played in the national championship in Kansas City 2 years ago when I was at Talladega College. We had, 5 people from the school there. What wasn't near the same support. And then this year, we're busting people up, right? Our band is at the national title game. It was really, really cool. And so, I'm very fortunate to work at a place that is passionate about athletics and young people the way that Langston is.
Oh, that is great. That is great. And I said it's joyous to hear that you're getting that type of support, and having to bust students down to the national championship. I know that your players were just hyped off of that.
Hey, they were, and that's the reason we're able to attract the level of players that we are. I think when you look at the crowds that we get when our students are here is man, there's very few places in small college basketball you'll find crowds like that, and so it's awesome.
Okay. Well, this is a question that I always ask coaches, and I found myself having to ask this over the last few years. How do you deal with the mental health aspect of coaching and supporting your student athletes?
Not very well. So I got a lot of gray hairs and I don't sleep well during the season. No. Hey, I think that's one of the challenges of coaching, especially 2024, right? Is finding the balance of how to take care of yourself while, providing the proper care and love, for your student athletes. And so I definitely don't have that mastered. I'm fortunate to have a great wife. Her dad was a college basketball coach. So, so she grew up around it. And then she was, I was going to say smart enough to marry a college basketball coach, but I don't know if that's the case, right? But so no, we really do this together.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like another assistant coach for us. And so, I know I couldn't do this and definitely not do it at a high level without her support.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, is there infrastructure in place for like your student athletes? Because there was a report that came out, I think, a few weeks ago that talked about something that many of us already knew, that the rate of suicides and suicide attempts were higher for athletes than they were for the general student body. So, and I have talked to some programs who do have some things in place. I know some programs that don't. And so, how does Langston deal with that? Like, if the student is having a crisis.
So we have a professional on campus that works not just with athletes but all students at
Mm-hmm.
Langston. And again, I think that's where, as a coach, right, really knowing your guys and
Mm-hmm.
just being there to love on them. And we dealt with some tough stuff through this year.
Mm-hmm.
We had two of our guys' fathers pass away during the season. Um, one of our guys' moms was extremely ill and hospitalized for several months. And so I think that's just, as a head coach, I know I want myself and our assistant coaches to really, you know, be close with our student athletes so we know what's going on outside of basketball. And it's real easy as the season gets here to get locked in and to get tunnel vision on just
Mm-hmm.
right on what's right before you. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, this is about a lot more than just winning basketball games. For us in our program.
Okay. Okay. Now, Coach, do you have and I know that some programs have JV teams, and
Yeah.
that some other institutions also have club programs that sometimes the coach might be able to, find that diamond in the rough. But so do you guys have a JV program?
We do. We do. So we actually have two JV teams. So we had over 50 athletes this year
Mm-hmm.
in our JV program. So yeah, we bring in over literally close to $1 million of revenue for our institution with that. And on the flip side, I think it's an unbelievable opportunity for so many kids that might not be playing college basketball, if they weren't afforded that opportunity. And so, we do have guys from our JV move up and make our varsity roster. I think we had three this year that played JV at some point. And so I think it's a win-win, right, for not only students, but also our university as well. And so, yeah, that's been a major component of our program, both at Talladega and here.
Okay. So, are there a lot of other JV programs in Oklahoma, or maybe Oklahoma, Nebraska, in that general region?
There are. So our JV teams, they play, obviously, like you mentioned, other JVs. They'll also play prep schools, and then they can also play junior colleges as well. And so we try to give those guys they play a 15 or 16 game schedule, and we really try to make it as great of an experience as we can for them. It's something that our staff takes very seriously and works really hard on.
Mhm. So, you say you have two JV teams, which
Yeah.
that's amazing. Uh, are your assistant coaches the head coaches for those JV teams?
So John Warren, one of our assistant coaches,
Mhm.
played for me, and then came here as my assistant coach. Coached with me at Talladega as well. He coaches one, and then our GA, Jaron Hilson, who was also a former player of mine, was an All-American for us at Dega. He coaches the other, and so those guys do a great job of running those programs. And obviously, I oversee that. But yeah, they're terrific.
Okay. Now, is there a club team there at Langston as well?
No, no. Have a very competitive intramural league, but no club team.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, just hearing that you have two JV teams, that just kind of blew my mind because I believe you are the first person who I've met that actually have two JV teams.
For sure. And it's again, I think there's so many good things about it. It's a lot of work, but
Mhm.
I think the things that we are able to get out of that, far outweigh the work that it takes to run those.
Right. Well, I mean, it's great training for those assistant coaches, especially if their aspirations are to be head coaches. I mean, that's just great. You actually can't ask for a better training ground unless you're an interim head coach. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay. All right. Um, well, who are some of the biggest influences in your career?
Man, so my mentor is a guy named Jim Saya. Um, I worked for a coach at Fresno Pacific. I was still a young guy. I think I was there for 1 year with the guy Clark Shehai. He left, took a different job.
Mhm.
Um, and Jim Sy comes in, who had been the top assistant at UCLA, actually been the interim head coach at USC. Um, and man, that was a complete God thing for me to be able to work for him for 3 years. I owe so much of the success that I've had to learning from him. Not only a great basketball coach, but just an outstanding man, a great man of faith. With high character, and so yeah, I mean, Coach is one of my best friends still today. And I owe him so much.
Okay. So, all right. So you mentioned, excuse me, you've mentioned a few things earlier, as well as your biggest mentor. What do you think is most important for an aspiring head coach? Is it to get that mentor, or is it to network, with different people? Uh, what do because you've been a head coach at several programs and have been successful, but what were some of the most important aspects for you becoming a head coach?
So, man, Coach Sy told me, his first day he was hired, we're sitting in his office, and he was like, Coach, he was like, man, he's like, if you can only be good at one thing, he's like, be a great recruiter because you'll always have a job. And so, obviously, part of that, right, is building a network of contacts, and like so many things go into that. But I kind of took that advice and ran with it from very very early in my career. And so, yeah, I think for those out there that want to coach, I would say one, we need to check your sanity level, right? So many people tried to talk me out of coaching. Dennis Nutt, man, I'll never forget this. I worked for him at Texas State. I was 23 years old, and he was like, man, you're sure you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, coach, of course. He was like, man, he's like, all right. He's like, I'm trying to talk you out of it. He said, one day you're going to have some sense, and you're going to tell me I was right. And so it didn't take very long for me to call coach and tell him he was right. So I probably should have listened to him, but no, hey, coaching's great. I tell people all the time, right? It's the best job in the world at times, but there's a lot of challenges, I think, and a lot of stress that goes with it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that recruiter advice is definitely valuable, and because one of the greatest recruiters for men's basketball, of course, is Coach Cal, and we just saw that he moved from University of Kentucky over to Arkansas, and but everywhere he's gone, he's recruited some terrific players who have been productive in the NBA. And I live in Kentucky. I'm a Cardinal and a Kentucky State University thoroughbred. So I kind of get sick when I look at the NBA, and every time I turn around, some UK player who played for Cal is starring for is the major player on somebody's team. And I mean, I was just going through the rosters, going through the stats, like even yesterday's games. It was like, man, all these guys they came from UK.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? I mean, obviously being in Oklahoma, right? SGA for the Thunder, right? He's a Kentucky guy. But
Yeah,
yeah, the sheer amount of NBA All Stars that Kentucky's put in recent memory is off the charts. But yeah, I mean, recruiting's where it's at, right? Like, it doesn't matter how good of a coach you are or how good of a coach you think you are. If you don't have players, you're not going to be very good. And so,
right.
yeah, I mean, obviously, if you look at our success here, it's, hey, we do a good job as a staff. We work really hard, but at the end of the day, we have really, really good players. That's what it comes down to.
Right. And you said that your focus is primarily Division 1 level talent, which really does help a lot. And I guarantee you, most people do not realize how much that can affect uh, your success, especially at the NAIA level. But that's something I've kind of highlighted because like I said, I'm from Kentucky, and so I've been close with people at Georgetown College as well.
Yeah.
And I know, several of their former coaches have, you know, that's what they were known for, was recruiting D1 players, D1 players who were upset with their former programs or whatever the problem was. They came to Georgetown. Many of them became All Americans. In fact, an athlete I coached in track and field was one of them. So, so I know how important that is. And it's great
Yeah. Yeah.
that you're
No.
able to succeed with that.
I mean, you mentioned Georgetown. I mean, to me, they're kind of the premier conference or premier team in the NAIA, right? I mean, you look at Chris Briggs there. I think he's the best coach in the country in the NAIA. With you look at the success that he's had, and yeah, like people have like the average person has no idea how good the top of the NAIA is. We're recruiting against some Division 1s right now, and so of course, you know,
Mm-hmm.
some of these D1s that won 8, 9, 10 games are saying, well, why would you go there? They're an NAI. So my thing is like, hey, put us on your schedule then. I put out a tweet. We'll come play you for no money since we're just an NAI. And, shocker to no one, my tweet had over 225,000 views, and I've got 0 phone calls of Division 1s wanting to play. So, we'll go play anyone, anywhere, anytime for no money. Um, and I think that's one of my frustrations about coaching at the NAIA level. And hey, I think once you get to the mid-major and high-major level, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's a significant difference in overall talent level. But there's a lot of low major leagues that we would have won this year with our team that we put together here at Langston, and again, the average person has no clue.
Right. And you mentioned something there about challenging other teams. And one of the things I loved about Cal is that he played some of the smaller schools, in the either in the preseason or the early season. Georgetown was a regular, and Kentucky State University was another regular that he played. And I remember one year, a few years ago, Georgetown actually out rebounded University of Kentucky in the game, and kind of, had it was a close game throughout. And Kentucky State actually, the last game that I actually covered, which was quite a few years ago, during the first half, at one point Kentucky State actually had the lead. So,
Yeah. Well, shoot, Georgetown and Kentucky played this year, and Georgetown was up by 1 at halftime. Um,
oh wow.
and so, yeah, like again, like you know, a lot of people don't understand the level of talent, right, and the level of coaching that Georgetown College has. Shoot, when I was an assistant at Fresno Pacific for Coach Saya, we went down and beat USC when they were top 10 in the country. We beat the University of San Francisco. I believe it was Rex Walters' first game there as a head coach. I mean, we lost in overtime to UC Santa Barbara when they made the NCAA tournament. We lost to Pepperdine on the last second shot. So yeah, I mean, it's the difference between low major basketball and the top of Division II and NAIA is there's not a difference in my opinion.
Right. Wow, that is terrific. That is terrific. Well, Coach, as we get ready to draw to a close, this is the time that I give for you to give shout outs to anyone you want to shout out.
Oh man, you're gonna get me in trouble. Hey, I'm not very good, man. So a lot of people make me look really good. So I don't want to miss anyone. Obviously I want to thank my assistant coaches, Chris Vincent, John Warren. They are really, really good. Our graduate assistant, Jaron Hilson, our student assistant, JP Walls, those guys continually prop me up and make me look a lot better than I am. So, I mentioned my wife, I could not, do this without her. I think, she is all the way in on coaching, on being there for our guys, on doing whatever it takes to help us win games. I cannot ask for a more supportive wife. And again, I mentioned our administration, our athletic director, Denise Drain Rogers, our presidents, Dr. Kent Smith that hired me, Dr. Ruth Jackson, have a special relationship with them. And again, I think administrations win championships. And so the vision that they've had, since I came to Langston is really, really special. And so, again, I'm blessed. God's blessed me a lot more than I deserve to be here at Langston and be in this spot. So, we look forward to kind of rebuilding and, doing everything we can to scratch and claw our way back to Kansas City and have a chance to win a national title.
Okay. All right. Well, we will definitely be keeping an eye on you and your program, and hopefully, you will take that next step and have that the big Naismith trophy in your case.
I appreciate it. We have 2 national runner-up trophies, and I look at those things, man, to keep me motivated, but I want to throw those things in the lake, man. We want the big ones for sure.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you, Coach Wright, for participating in this chat. We hope that you and your program continue to succeed. And like I said, we will definitely follow you. And we do want to thank you, our audience, for watching this episode of Chat with HBCU Champions. Please visit ricefame.org for more information on replays and more HBCU information. And please follow our links on that site, especially the LinkedIn link, because that link will also take you to the recorded video and audio podcast. With that said, please have a blessed week.
Now I'm talking about young shakes. 502 represent. Just James. And this is for my city.
Hey, I do it for my city. Dog, I don't plan on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gone first round. For my city, dog, I ain't never been a jumpin'. If he thinking I'm a jump, watch him get his head up. For my city, dog, I don't plan on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gone first round. For my city, dog, I ain't never been a jumpin'. If he thinking I'm a chump, watch him get his head up. For my city, cause I feel like I love her so much, like I owe her so much for supplying her touch. I will always respect her, I will never neglect her. Bet you hear her naming like every one of my records. No, I'm not stunting, ain't no future in your frontin', right? Gotta get this money, watch me get it all night. Planet flying top flight, higher than space stations. That's why I gotta grind, cause I need it and I hate waiting.